Boy, have we had a day. We have had a day. Russell Wilson traded to the Denver Broncos from the Seattle Seahawks. Horrible trade, I might add. Yeah, they got a lot, but the team isn't going to be competitive for how long now? And they had a team that could be competitive. Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay. Mike Williams inks a 3-year, $60 million deal. So much happened today. Day one. Davante Adams tagged. We have a lot to talk about. We're breaking it all down right now. The Russell Wilson trade. Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay. What's it mean for Jerry Jeudy and Davante Adams and the running backs in Green Bay? Javonte Williams, is he going to the moon, to Neptune, to Pluto? We're breaking it all down right now. The Fantasy Football Show, it begins right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Let's kick it off with Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay, signing what looked like a 4-year, $200 million deal over $50 million a year, but the numbers weren't right. Aaron Rodgers came out and said, "Hey everyone, just wanted to clear some things up. Yes, I will be playing with the Packers next year. However, reports about me signing a contract are inaccurate, as are the supported terms of the contract, quote unquote, signed. I'm very excited to be back." So the numbers we don't know about, the contract details we don't have. Obviously, some people jump on the gun. I'm usually critical on Shefty lately and Rappaport if they're trying to report something too quickly. But, we're all doing that right now. So cutting them some slack, like they're rolling with the punches. If they get fed information, they're throwing it out there. So understandable under the conditions of today to be wrong on some of the numbers and things like that. But Aaron Rodgers is returning to Green Bay. Look, I got this wrong from earlier on in the offseason. I read this in a way, this time last year, Aaron Rodgers had no interest in staying in Green Bay, so much so that he held out and got a year taken off his deal. Things have changed and they've evolved. And you saw my percentages from January to the last month evolve. And as of the last couple weeks, I've been 50-50. He's staying in Green Bay, 50% going somewhere else, collectively 50%. So majority feeling like he was potentially going to go back to Green Bay. I mentioned that because a lot of people say, "Smitty, you said he's not going back." I said that a month or so ago, 2 months ago. Things have changed. The landscape changes, it's ever evolving. But what's interesting is the Russell Wilson news was potentially brewing, or that deal was brewing behind the scenes. We didn't really know about it. It said that the Russell Wilson deal had nothing to do with the Aaron Rodgers decision, meaning Aaron Rodgers probably knew that the Denver Broncos were not an option because the Denver Broncos were moving forward with the Russell Wilson deal. So it's possible maybe A-Rod wanted to go to Denver, but it wasn't really on the table anymore. We'll never really know, or maybe he'll say something about it at some point down the road. But he's in Green Bay, and that's great for Davante Adams. That's great for the Green Bay running backs. I think Dillon is the guy to own long-term because Aaron Jones is due a whole bunch of money guaranteed in 2023. And so I believe the Green Bay Packers will be cutting ties with Aaron Jones after this upcoming 2022 season. So AJ Dillon is the back to owning Green Bay moving forward. Things could change. Maybe AJ Dillon blows up and is worth the guaranteed money. But given how there's kind of a timeshare already, and unless AJ Dillon gets hurt and Aaron Jones is forced to carry the load and have a really good year, I think we're looking at Aaron Jones not in Green Bay in 2023. A lot of that can change. We saw right now today that anything can happen. So keep open minds for all that stuff because it's kind of down the road. But as for 2022, we're talking about a running game that now has hope. If you go zero running back, you go wide receiver in rounds 1 and 2, you have a nice option in Aaron Jones and Dillon together that will cost you something in the 3rd or 4th round and beyond. Great zero running back strategy to go after AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones together without touching your 1st and 2nd round picks. Davante Adams is the biggest winner here because Davante Adams was maybe looking at Jordan Love throwing him the pigskin that would have taken him out of the top 5 overall wide receivers for fantasy football 2022. Now he's back to the top wide receiver spot in fantasy football in a lot of people's minds. I've done a number of little polls in a live stream, in the chat, in comments of a Twitter post or an IG post, and I'm seeing a consensus. Who's your wide receiver 1 now? Adams. Who's your wide receiver 1 now? Adams. Kupp. Adams, Kupp. Everybody is back on the Adams train, and for good reason. He now has Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football for at least 2 more years, maybe longer, but at least 2 more years if I had to guess how many years Aaron Rodgers probably plays realistically moving forward. 2 years in a row, he's contemplated retirement. It's hard to imagine him playing 3 or 4 years, but anything can happen. We've learned today that anything can happen by this Russell Wilson trade. Have we not? It's not always good to be matter of fact and nothing's going to change. This is 100%. Look, I said Rodgers wouldn't, in January, wouldn't leave. Things happen. Things change. We never truly know. This Russell Wilson trade was phenomenally timed because we had all hit a low expecting Aaron Rodgers to maybe go to Denver so Javonte's season could get a kickstart and take this man to the moon, to Pluto, to Neptune, to the furthest planet from the sun.
Please report to the moon.
And then Aaron Rodgers stays. We get upset, a little bit down. I turn off the live stream. I walk away from the computer for maybe 20 minutes, maybe less. And then we hear
Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos.
And Javonte's season is back on the table. Javonte's season was already gonna happen, but now it's in motion in a whole different way. He is a top 2 to 3 overall player in 2022. I personally think I probably have him as my 1.2, at least my 1.3. Maybe I take Najee ahead of him. I don't know yet. Let me digest it a little bit. But it's JT. It's maybe Javonte and Najee tied for 2 and 3 overall. It's not Eckler. It's not Henry. It's not Cook. It's not a wide receiver. It is Javonte Williams before a wide receiver goes off the board. And there's only 2 running backs that could be potentially taken before Javonte in my mind. One is, of course, JT. The other, maybe Najee, maybe not. I'm feeling Javonte's season is around the corner to the degree we've been pumping up and talking about. And I know you're going to say Melvin Gordon. They're talking to Melvin Gordon again, who's supposed to be testing free agency, right? But there's reportedly good conversation between Melvin Gordon and the team. They may bring him back. But even if they did, look, if they let Gordon come back, it's better than having some young, amazing rookie like James Cook get drafted to take Melvin Gordon's place. I truly believe a lot of what Denver did last year in splitting between the two was to keep Javonte fresh because they had nothing to play for. If I was the coach of the Denver Broncos last season, I wouldn't have run Javonte into the ground. It was a smart move. Is there some risk? Given how productive Melvin Gordon was, I suppose a little bit. But Javonte Williams was number 1 in the NFL in broken tackles in a halftime part-time role. There's no way they don't unleash him in 2022. Could Melvin be relevant? Sure, but he's older. I'd rather have an older running back like Melvin than a James Cook, a young running back. Either way, James Cook, Melvin Gordon. Either way, Melvin Gordon, James Cook, nothing's going to rain on this parade because Javonte is going to the moon, baby. But we're on the topic of Aaron Rodgers, and I'm talking about Javonte and other things. As for Rodgers, he's a top 6 fantasy quarterback. You got Allen and you got Mahomes. Number 3, I'm starting to rank Herbert number 3 personally. You can have Burrow there. I won't mind because I had Burrow there for a lot of the offseason so far, but I'm starting to really feel like it's going to be Herbert season. He already finishes the number 2 fantasy football quarterback. Not crazy to throw him 3. It's right here. This is what we're talking about. Is it A-Rod? I think the surprise guy is going to be Trey in this conversation, but 5 to 6, they can tie there. I'm okay with that. 5 to 6. Then is it Russell Wilson? Is Russell Wilson number 7? Is he going to jump back into everybody's good graces from a fantasy perspective? It's going to get crazy up in this mug. Smoke season is phenomenal. I love smoke season. I love free agency. This is one of the best times during the whole season, and we've got movement, baby. But Aaron Rodgers, as I just alluded to, has very much a top 5 to 6 potential value. I think tied with Trey. I think Trey could dance right in this range all season long. I think people will be surprised. In hindsight, it will look obvious, but Trey Lance, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, they're all going to be dancing right around this area. I know other quarterbacks are going to be warranted in that area too. I know some will say Lamar. I know some of you will say Kyler. I'm going to say Kyler's going to crumble. I'm saying Kyler's not in a good headspace, and maybe he changes that, and I will adapt as well, just like I'm adapting to the Aaron Rodgers situation and started to go toward the 50% and not toward the he's not going to Green Bay. Everything's about adapting. There's a lot of information constantly rolling in. You've got to adjust and adapt your thinking. You can't hold yourself down to one stance because you've already had it. You took the stance, you dug your heels in, you're biasly now against any new information that comes in. I might like Lamar more than I like him right now. Right now, he's not a top 6-7 fantasy quarterback to me. I might like Kyler more and more later if he turns his headspace around, he gets motivated, starts looking like a leader. I might get more excited about Kyler, but for right now, I'm not. Davante Adams goes from potentially falling out of the top 5 for wide receivers in 2022 to now being back into the top 1 to 2, 1 to 3 for almost anybody on planet Earth. He could easily be the number 1 fantasy football wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay probably benefited Adams the most. And I will go as far as to say in Dynasty, he probably still holds top 4 overall value because Aaron Rodgers is now probably committing to Green Bay for what I think is going to be at least 2 years. It could be longer. It could be the 4-year deal. He may not play it all out, but I think 2 years is pretty safe. In Dynasty, 2 years is a long time. People need to stop playing for 3, 4, 5 years down the road. 2 years is a long time. Sometimes Dynasty leagues crumble in 2 years' time. So play for the bag, play for the now, play for about 2 years. Adams, top 5 Dynasty wide receiver. The Russell Wilson trade was Russell Wilson and a 4th rounder to the Broncos. The Seahawks get 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, a 5th-rounder, Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, and Noah Fant. Russell Wilson, as I alluded to here on the marker board, could potentially dance in the 6 to 7 range for fantasy football QBs. This man is going to be throwing the rock to a guy named Jerry Jeudy, who we're going to talk about in a minute. Russell Wilson can move around and scramble. This is going to be a productive offense with Javonte Williams to dump the ball off to. A lot of red zone opportunities. Russell Wilson's going to play better in Denver than he played in Seattle. Russell Wilson has more weapons in Denver than he had in Seattle. Russell Wilson's going to have a better defense, which has a cascading effect in terms of production and moving the football down the field. Russell Wilson is going to be a better fantasy football player in Denver than he was in Seattle. He's now relevant inside the top 6 quarterbacks moving forward. Dynasty redraft doesn't matter. He's now again a top 6, top 5 to 7, top 6 to 7 quarterback in fantasy football go forward. As we talked about with Javonte, you have the threat of Gordon. I get it, but it doesn't worry me because James Cook worries me more than an aging Melvin Gordon, who is getting older, less likely to stay healthy, especially if he's used a lot. And I get that there's concern coming out of 2021. I get that everybody thinks that Denver wants to run both of them, but I truly believe it was smart to hold back on putting too much mileage on Javonte unnecessarily when the team wasn't going anywhere. Number 1 in broken tackles in the entire NFL. The dude's gonna get fed. He's too good to keep off the field. And they want to make plays. They want to win a Super Bowl. I'm proud of the Denver Broncos. If I'm a Denver fan, I'm just ecstatic right now at what my team and organization is doing to put this team in a position to win in the most competitive division in the NFL. Even more competitive than the now NFC West, which is now without Russell Wilson. The 2 best divisions in football, the AFC West, then the NFC West with the Niners and the Rams, and maybe the Cardinals if Kyler Murray can turn things around. But Herbert, Mahomes, Russell Wilson, this division in the AFC West is off the chain. And Javonte Williams is going to be a critical reason why this team is successful in 2022. Russell Wilson is going to keep defenses honest, which is going to open up rushing lanes for Javonte Williams, who's a tackle-breaking machine, the number 1 tackle-breaking machine in the NFL, and ball movement gets Javonte in scoring position. Javonte Williams has the potential to get 15 total touchdowns in 2022 because he's a game breaker all by himself. Even without a quarterback, he'd get 10, 11, 12 total touchdowns because he'll make his own plays. He'll find his own room. He'll break off long runs. Tackle breaking machines like Javonte Williams, number 1 in the NFL, find ways of breaking free and making plays, getting to the end zone. Long runs. He led the league in long runs for different segments of the season. As a backup, players breaking off the longest runs in the NFL find the end zone. He's finding the end zone 8, 9, 10 times on his own. Now you've got an offense that's moving the ball into the red zone on the regular, led by Russell Wilson. What do you think that spells? More touchdowns is what that spells. Javonte Williams is looking at an unbelievable 1.2 overall type season. In fact, I'm ready to do it. I'm locking him in as my 1.2 overall. JT, and then it's Javonte. Javonte Williams, you are Smitty approved, young man.
You've just been Smitty approved.
Couldn't be more thrilled about Javonte's season. 15 total touchdowns, over 2,000 total yards. If this guy stays healthy, he could arguably finish as the #1 overall fantasy football running back in 2022. We've got to put him behind JT for now. Wouldn't shock me if people tried to make statements and he started grabbing small shares of the 1.1 ADP data in the coming weeks, and people amping up and getting ready, wanting to be first to this. Oh, he's the one. He's the running back one. It could definitely catch fire. But right now, 1.2 is probably a little bold, and that's where I stand as of this moment. As for these Bronco wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy has so much talent. He's bleeding talent. He hasn't been fed the football. He's at a carousel of quarterbacks throwing him the rock. He's probably a top 5 route runner in the NFL, which is kind of like uncomfortable to say when he doesn't have the production to back it up. And people give you pushback because it's not parallel. You sometimes can be one of the best route runners and not have production, but he hasn't had quarterback play. Jerry Jeudy, if he stays healthy, can be a top 10 wide receiver in 2022. And you're not going to catch many people sleeping on this because they know Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, to the moon.
Please report to the moon.
To Neptune, to Pluto. You will have some people, maybe about 20-30% if I had to guess, that are going to like Sutton more and be pushing that narrative like, you guys are all missing the boat. I want to be the guy to say, no, it's not Jeudy, it's Sutton. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It could be Sutton. Jeudy could struggle staying healthy. But my point is that little segment of people that want to push the Sutton narrative might help pull down or hold down Jerry Jeudy's ADP from getting as high as it could get. But this guy's a top 10 wide receiver, and I think Hamler and Patrick need to be talked about. I think Hamler is one of the quickest wide receivers on the team, and teammates of his in the past have said that Hamler could be a #1 wide receiver on a lot of NFL teams. So Hamler could sneak out and become a really good asset. He could be that Lockett type role. So keep an eye on him. I know Patrick's a good asset as well, but look for Hamler. Keep an eye on Hamler. And Jerry Jeudy especially to the moon, because without Noah Fant, there's more target share. And Jerry Jeudy is going to be, I think, Russell Wilson's favorite target because he's such a good route runner. I think Sutton will be used a lot. I think Sutton could be good if he can stay healthy and progress and get better. Jerry Jeudy has the top 10 wide receiver ceiling. Mike Williams inked a 3-year, $60 million deal, which is a ton of money for a guy that struggled to stay consistent, struggled to stay healthy. I think he's vital to Herbert. I think they could have went after Cooper, another wide receiver, maybe. I don't know how much more Cooper would be than that Mike Williams deal, so that's going to be, when Cooper's released, an interesting thing to look at. But they're comfortable with Mike Williams. Herbert might have wanted this to happen. Herbert might have big plans for Mike Williams. And Mike Williams was an elite player for a string of games at the beginning of the year. He blew up, and people were talking about this is the #1 wide receiver there without question. And he did it for a while. Then he dropped off, tailed off. He does that. But maybe Herbert creates a consistent year out of Mike Williams in 2022. And he's exciting to own in fantasy. He is, because he'll be cheap, because people will doubt him. But more importantly than all of this is Mike Williams' 3-year, $60 million deal is going to set the tone for other wide receivers. Guys like Amari Cooper that get cut are going to potentially get more than that. Deebo Samuel's looking for an extension, and you know he's getting more than Mike Williams. This set the bar really, really high. So it's going to be interesting how the Mike Williams deal impacts the other wide receivers getting deals coming up here in the 2022 offseason. What a day. What a day. What an amazing day today. We had a day, people, and I think there's going to be a whole lot more to come this week, so stay tuned. If you're new, subscribe to the show, smash and pulverize that subscribe button and annihilate the like button, and leave me a comment down below, for goodness sakes. I will get back to you. I respond to every comment made on my channel within the first 12 to 24 hours of the video dropping, so if you need help, drop it below. And get on over to Sleeper. sleeperu.com and get your lifetime membership. Never pay for content again. Never pay for rankings again. Buy your lifetime membership and you've got content for life. The video courses, everything. And if you buy my top level lifetime membership, you get my heysmitty.com text advice. You're going to get 2 years worth of it where you and I can go back and forth on the text line and talk whenever you need advice. So get on over to sleeperu.com and get that lifetime membership. All right, until tomorrow, the regular show on the Fantasy Football Show right here is live Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern every single day. But we did emergency live streams today. If there's ever news breaking, I go live again. I do multiple live streams in those situations. So if you're new, this is your one-stop shop for fantasy football.
Now get out of here. This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.